in my own discovery, figured out, oh, our soils are mineral depleted. People don't have as many minerals. You go into the fasted state and that depletion reveals itself. And so that started me on my mineral journey. But then where you come along for my brain was really understanding how the quality of minerals matters. Dr. Mindy here.
Your body is in a war zone.
Different parts of the brain get activated depending upon how stressed you are.
When you look at it from that inflammatory.
It's interesting. I mean, that has some merit to it for sure.
And you can't control everything.
I'd say.
And what about a woman who is not pregnant, but she's aiming?
So, Caroline, let me start by welcoming you to the Resetter podcast. And I'm so happy to dive into all things minerals with you once again.
Thank you so much. And you know, the feeling is completely mutual. Such deep respect for the work you're doing. Thank you.
You know, I just want to bring the audience up to speed on my discovery of minerals, because really how I discovered it was in teaching so many people how to fast. I didn't quite understand why some people could build these fasting lifestyles and have extraordinary health, and other people could build these fasting lifestyles and their hair fell out, or their women's cycles went off, or their experience within the fast became really difficult. And so I was looking for that through line of what is it? And I, in my own discovery, figured out, oh, our soils are mineral depleted. People don't have as many minerals. You go into the fasted state and that depletion reveals itself. And so that started me on my mineral journey. But then where you come along for my brain was really understanding how the quality of minerals matters. So before we dive into talking about dry January, how to create mocktails using your incredible products, why we want to backfill in when we get off something like alcohol with minerals, like these are important topics. Can you talk about the fulvic and humic acid minerals and where you get them and why they're so important?
Yeah. First of all, fulvic and humic are, we call them molecules. People call them acids, and fulvic and humic acids are just fulvic and humic that have been extracted using acid. So it results in an acid, and that's what's used in agriculture. It's also, there are some consumable fulvic and humic that are acids, and they just taste bad. So that's why we use a different process that results in humic and fulvic molecules. Where they come from, I like to tell the story because it's something people can remember. So if you think about the Earth back when the dinosaurs lived 65 million years ago, and a meteor hit the Yucatan and it killed 75% of all life on Earth in a few hours. And all of these rainforests around the world died and decomposed. Now, these are freshwater plants, and when they die and they decompose, they create humic and fulvic. And there are humic and fulvic substances around the earth. In the Himalayas, we have shilajit. In the British Isles, there's something called peat. In the Amazon basin, they have something called black soil. We use something that comes from the Southwest United States. It comes from about 10 to 12 feet below the earth. It's a black crystalline substance, and it's called humate. So humate is this powder, and we take that powder, which is incredibly mineral rich, to the point where if you were just using that powder for mineral replenishment in your body, you'd probably only need a half a cup in a year. So that's how incredibly concentrated it is.
Wow.
We take that concentrated powder and we extract into liquid these two molecules, humic and fulvic. What humic and fulvic represent, Mother Nature's natural mineral replenishment technology for all cellular systems across the earth.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of it. This is nature's solution for getting minerals into cells, which is where they need to get to do most of them need to get to do their job.
Yeah. And I love evolution. I've been really studying this I'm actually now studying it from a menopausal lens,
Oh,
really
interesting.
looking at why we as women spend 42% of our life in post-reproductive times. And what I have discovered in studying something called the grandmother hypothesis, which is really looking at what the reason for us to live so long post reproductively is, that there is this modern world that we are living in, and there is an ancient history that our human body was developed in. And we are now currently at an evolutionary mismatch. And the chronic diseases we are getting, the challenges mentally and physically that humans are coming into, is really just a mismatch with the human body didn't advance the same way technology did. We're literally living in the same body that our primal friends lived in. Yet you and I are now talking in different parts of the country via this little box of a computer. Like, so much has changed. So in the story you just told, what I find fascinating is that the soils have changed, the environment has changed, everything has changed except the human body. And so if we want to go back and learn how to take care of the human body, we need to go back and look at some of those resources that were available to us. And what I just heard was we had these minerals that our cells required that we're no longer getting. And that is exciting, and why I think your product is working so well. So just so that people can understand, we did multiple interviews, and we'll put the links in there about what minerals do inside the cell. But where I want to take this conversation is this modern world and how we're not adding those minerals in, and certain activities we are doing are continuing to deplete the minerals. So can you talk, we're going to go into alcohol, but can you talk about what are some of the behaviors that this modern world is providing us that is adding to the depletion of minerals?
So I love talking with you, Mindy, because you and I we really love to delve into a subject and really go deeply into it to understand it. And I want to talk more about what you're studying, but that's very interesting to me. But what I've been studying is ecosystems. And what I recognize is that it's as modern beings living in a technological world, we tend to think about our body mechanistically.
Yes.
And we try to biohack or think, and somebody says some scientist in a lab developed minimum RDAs, or daily allowances or requirements of different minerals and things like that, and vitamins, et cetera. And we think because a doctor or a scientist tells us that we need to follow that the same way you boot up your computer and you follow a user interface to do X, Y, or Z. And the thing that we have to recognize is, as you're saying, our bodies are natural beings. In fact, we're actually not separate from the earth. We are actually part of the ecosystem of the earth. Now, certainly we're messing up the ecosystem because we are out of balance. Okay. And so if we start to think about the body as an ecosystem, then we begin to be able to, this is the main thinking and paradigm shift that I'm talking about a lot now. And because minerals work at an ecosystem level, they are the foundational minerals, and amino acids are the found fuel for your body. And you need to think about them in an ecosystem way. And the way I like to describe it is this. So if you have, let's use the gut microbiome. We've looked at it, and let's think about drinking alcohol. Every day I go home, I have a few beers, maybe I have a few glasses of wine, maybe a cocktail. Now what's happening is every day I'm putting a little poison into that ecosystem, into that gut ecosystem. Now, if my body has enough fuel, chances are it could actually move that stuff out. If it had enough, if it was like resonating at a high enough vibrational state, it actually might be able to clear that out on a regular basis. But without that, and most people are not, we aren't operating at that level, and we don't have enough of the amino acids and minerals in our body to fuel all those biosynthesis processes that would be required to clear that out. What happens is we end up with a buildup of toxicity. And then if we're thinking about putting minerals in our body, because somebody said, maybe from hearing this conversation, people are like, oh, I need minerals. So they go to the health food store and they start buying pill bottles. And so if you think about your gut like a forest ecosystem, which it's actually a lot like that, it's got all sorts of microorganisms and fungi and beneficial bacteria and non-beneficial bacteria and all sorts of nutritional elements that are coming through and being broken down. There's all sorts of decomposition processes that are happening. And that's just the beginning, So there's so many things that are happening in the gut. And now go in and imagine it like a forest. When it's healthy, there's all the nutrients and all of the positive elements, water and air, clean air, and decomposing plants in the soil, et cetera. Now go take a wheelbarrow of magnesium and throw it on that floor of that forest. What's going to happen to the plants in that area? They're going to go, this is too much. This is a concentration. What am I going to do? And the plants aren't going to thrive. And so that's what happens when you don't treat your gut and your body like an ecosystem. You do big changes like this, which are really stressful and hard on the body. Now, we do fasting, but when we learn to fast the way you teach, it really is treating the body with that cycle, particularly for women, and doing it in a way where you're really in touch with the ecosystem and listening, and you're in relationship with your body. You're not trying to do something to it.
Yes.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, but what I want to make sure people didn't miss what you just said, because we do have a mechanistic approach to our bodies. Some part is hurting, let's fix that part. Oh, I heard I'm low in magnesium, let me just megadose magnesium. But what we have not brought to the surface is the fact that in an ecosystem, there's always a slant towards homeostasis. You have to constantly be coming back into balance in order for everything in the ecosystem to work properly. So let's use alcohol as an example. You decide to pull alcohol out of your diet, you're pulling the toxin out. But that doesn't mean the ecosystem can self-repair. There are things that were destroyed in the drinking of alcohol that need to be back in place so that the growth and the balance of the ecosystem comes back into homeostasis.
Exactly right. And the trick is, how do you do homeostasis? How do you support your body?
That is the trick.
Doing what it naturally does, which is gain and maintain homeostasis. That's what your body is doing every second of every single day, all the time, whether you're awake or asleep. It's trying to create balance in every little ecosystem and microbiome in your body.
So specifically, before we go into alcohol, one question that has come up, because we're such supporters of your product, especially for fasters, is with fulvic and humic acids. That's the way I've learned them to be. We can call them molecules. It's a little confusing because they're really, there's a lot of depth there. Are we able to say that those acids are full of magnesium, potassium, zinc, or its nature has created the perfect balance of minerals? And so you don't have to think about the amounts. Nature already created it, and that's what you're bringing forth.
Exactly. So rather than saying, okay, I need magnesium or I need potassium or zinc or whatever, fill in, 17 to 22 minerals that you need. Imagine that, billions of years ago, when single-celled organisms were developing on the planet, and there were mitochondria inside those cells, there had to be a way to get minerals into the cells. And so nature and not just one mineral, magnesium or potassium, but all of them.
Yeah.
So nature, in its infinite, evolutionary wisdom, developed these humic and fulvic molecules, which actually have all of the perfect ratios of minerals
Ah,
that your body needs. I mean,
amazing.
of course it makes sense because this is how nature works, right?
Yep.
The way nature works, it says, oh, we don't want to put big concentrations in. We need all of these in these natural ratios. So there's a lot of magnesium and calcium and potassium and sodium and boron and what we call the macro minerals. But there are also all of the micronutrients, the smaller things that you've probably never heard of, like molybdenum and vanadium, and people have heard of
Right.
chromium and selenium, and on. Okay, and the beautiful thing is these fulvic and humic molecules have those minerals in those specific ratios. And in fact, your gut, even, do you know, your gut is lined with these receptor sites. We could provide more detail, but that's the simplest version. And do you know those receptor sites are also designed in those same ratios? So you have a lot of receptor sites for magnesium, potassium, calcium, et cetera. And you have smaller numbers of ratios of all the receptor sites for the micronutrients. You see,
Wow.
everything matches up. We say as above, so below. You see,
Yeah. But I'm sorry. I'm really excited, and I'm geeking out because what I've been really I taught this in my clinic at the expense of my supplement sales. I just want to say that because the more I learned about the human body, the more I had respect for it. And
Thank
that you can't just put these outside supplements into your body and assume that that ratio that some human decided was important is the right ratio for your body. So we need to go to things like food and look at, and food, when it comes to that, my number one rule is eat nature's food, not human made food. So what I just learned in what you just said is that what you all have done with Beam Minerals is that exact thing. You've allowed nature to bring forth the perfect mineral balance that your cells will know what to do with. And I know this is your product and you're really excited about it, but I'm excited about the fact that we're not trying to manipulate the ecosystem anymore. We are, with fasting and with food and with products like Beam, we are coming back to those primal experiences that our body had, which put us in more a state of homeostasis. So I would categorize Beam as a food, not a supplement.
Cell food.
Cell food.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
Now, and the cool thing about humic and fulvic is they provide all those minerals that your body needs in those natural ratios, but even more so, they represent a technology which is the delivery system for those minerals into your cells, as well as the detoxification tool for your cellular systems. And so imagine, it's not just like having somebody like bring you the plate of food. It's like spoon feeding it. It is the delivery system. And that's what makes them so powerful.
Right. Amazing. Okay. That was a whole nother level for me. So thank you for walking us through that. I hope hopefully those listening are getting a deeper understanding, because we get asked a lot about minerals. And I think the way of looking at it as supporting the ecosystem, because it's this cell food, is amazing. Now, when I put Eat Like a Girl together, I discovered a couple of things. First, I discovered that there are 24 key nutrients that every woman needs to be able to make a hormone. So here we are living in a time, especially with menopause, where we're lathering ourselves with creams and patches and pellets without really discussing, is our body able to make its own natural age-appropriate hormone? Doesn't matter if you're at 60 or 45, there is a level of hormonal production that's going to continually go on. And there are 24 nutrients that you need to make a hormone. 9 of those, by the way, are amino acids. And I don't know the exact number, but I want to say that there was close to like another 9 or 10 that were minerals. And then there's one fatty acid and a handful of vitamins. So when I looked at that, I saw, well, what's depleting a woman of her mineral, these key minerals? One of them was birth control pills, being on birth controls. I'm curious, and you and I can geek out on this, if another one of them is HRT, if HRT depletes the mineral system. But
That's very interesting.
Yeah, I don't have any evidence yet on that, but I suspect it's an exogenous resource that depletes our own internal resources.
Okay, you and I are going to have to go down that rabbit
Yeah.
hole. Maybe not here.
Yeah, let's, because I think it would be helpful. Like, my understanding with birth control pill after looking at all of that was every woman that goes on a birth control pill should know of these nutrients, and she should backfill in with the nutrients. I think the same is with HRT, and you and I can, let's research it, and then we'll bring it to the podcast and let everybody know what we discovered. But then we have things
Especially
like, go ahead.
Just especially with all the fertility issues now as well, even prior
Right.
to, perimenopause, all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Where do minerals? Yeah. So now hopefully you're thinking through the birth control pill, like somebody's been on the birth control pill.
Exactly.
They've depleted their body's internal resources of making hormones. They get off the pill and now they can't get pregnant because the resources have been depleted. Now, in the menopausal woman, what's interesting about alcohol is that as progesterone goes down, so does GABA, and our ability to calm ourselves becomes more difficult. So the glass of wine becomes really attractive. And so many women are trying to get off the glass of wine. And I'm curious if you've ever done any research on backfilling in with fulvic and humic acids and getting those minerals back in, if that would actually change your craving for your glass of wine. Do you know it? Do you have any thoughts on that?
We have lots of anecdotal evidence from many, many, many women in perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, who have not been sleeping through the night, who've had anxiety, who've had that, what I call, it's like the nervous system that's amped up and it feels like it's missing something. So it's craving sweets, it's craving that's something that's missing. And what I say, you are missing something. And if you can actually learn to replenish this full spectrum of minerals that your body needs, literally the nervous system can calm. So,
That's beautiful.
I can totally appreciate that need to medicate when the whole world is crazy and then inside our body is missing. So not only are we reacting or responding to an outer craziness, but we also experience something missing inside. So the whole nervous system is amped up. Now, I'm telling you, that has been my personal experience in my story, was waking up 4 or 5 times a night. And now being fully mineralized, I easily sleep through the night, unless I've drank a lot of water.
Right. Okay, wait. So I have my Beam minerals every morning when I wake up on an empty stomach. I never thought to have another dose at night before I go to bed. Is the timing of when you do your minerals matter?
Well, here's an interesting thing that we often recommend to people is have the electrolyze. Electrolyze is the fulvic supplement, and fulvic is the delivery system for minerals into your cells. So you want to have a lot of energy through the day. You want your cells to be producing lots of energy and have the fuel to do that. You use the fulvic. So you take your fulvic in the morning. In the evening, before you go to bed, you take the humic, which is that full spectrum mineral replenishment, plus that detoxification process that happens via your autonomic system when you're asleep.
Oh my God, I'm going to change that. That's phenomenal. Yeah. So with alcohol, there's a lot of discussion right now about alcohol being this poison, and specifically on the brain and how damaging it is to the brain. I feel like there needs to be a deeper discussion of that, because, if you just take a glass of wine and you put it in the environment of a social gathering where you're at a table with a bunch of people you love, and you're eating good food and you've had a rough day and you sit down and you have a glass of wine and it relaxes you, and now you can be in better relationship with everybody. And there's a bit of a health benefit. So I think when we just blankly say alcohol is a poison, we need to ask a bigger question, which is, what is it damaging? And is there a way to backfill it in? So do you know, like, what, from a mineral level, what alcohol depletes us of or takes away from us?
Yeah, and the main thing that it depletes is magnesium. That
Okay.
it really, when you use minerals on a regular basis, it depletes magnesium, but it also depletes phosphate, calcium, and potassium. So,
Right.
if if you have osteopenia, osteoporosis, it's probably not best to be drinking alcohol. However, I want to tell a couple stories because,
Yeah, please.
so I have a good friend who, her husband is German. He loves to drink alcohol. He loves really, really good wine. And when she drank with him, she couldn't sleep. She would wake up. It did not work in her system. And I said, okay, I went to her house. I was visiting, and I said, why don't you use our microboost product? We'll have some wine tonight. She only drank wine at dinner, but still she was drinking nothing because she had such discomfort when she did. She took a shot of her microboost before she went to bed. She slept like a baby, and she woke up the next morning. She's like,
Oh,
this is
wow.
miraculous. Okay.
Wow.
So and if we think about the brain, one of the challenges with detox protocols in general is they often don't work in the brain, but humic goes across the blood-brain barrier. It goes everywhere in the body.
Mm.
So it's to the point where my kids, my son, who was 19, went to a big rave somewhere, big 3-day event, and who knows what they imbibed. And I gave him a couple of bottles of microboost to take with him because I'm like, you guys are going to need this. And when they came back, all of his friends came in the house, which they never do. And they came in there hanging out. And I'm like, wow, this is interesting. And finally, one of them said, hey, do you have one of those bottles of stuff that worked so well? And I sent them home with bottles of the microboost. So the point being, there are two pieces to this. And I always suggest to them, if you're going to go drinking or you're going to imbibe, even a big Thanksgiving dinner, or go out to a restaurant and you might get gluten if you're gluten intolerant, have some microboost beforehand. So now your gut has the fuel, the tools inside it to actually begin the detox process immediately.
I love that's such a, and one of the things that I've recommended is that people do, like, before they go out on a binge or even they're going to go out and drink, is to support the liver. And so I have a supplement that I think is phenomenal called Tudka, and it's also something found in the earth once again. And so you go into a meal protecting yourself by having the supplement. But I love what you're saying is also have it was the fulvic. Was it fulvic? It was the microboost.
No, humic, actually.
Humic.
Microboost
Okay,
is the
humic.
humic. So imagine if that alcohol didn't even have to hit your liver because it got cleared out
Right.
beforehand.
Oh my God, that would be see.
Right?
This is where it gets really, when you start to understand this stuff, it gets really simple. And I was just telling somebody the other day that my supplement list has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller once I understand deeper principles of the body like this. So if somebody is embarking, dry January is a very common experience, and I applaud people for giving their bodies a break. But knowing people are going to go back to alcohol in February, and most people are going to go back to those old routines, could we think of, like, there is sort of an acute way, like an intensive care version of Beam Minerals that you would use, and then when you get done with your dry January, there would be more of a ongoing maintenance. Like, I'm thinking to everybody who's trying to do good for their body, is there an amount they could go in with using these minerals to backfill in and
Yes.
get their body back in balance.
Yes. Well, and again, thinking it from an ecosystem
Right.
perspective,
Yes.
here we are about to go into the holidays and all that time when we eat lots of rich food and we potentially imbibe and, we party, we have great times with family members, et cetera, hopefully great times. So here we are, and it's January, and we're getting ready we're going to now go off alcohol. So what we want to do is first of all, you don't want to detoxify too fast. Okay. It's going to be
Yes.
hard on your body. We're thinking ecosystem. We're thinking gentle, small, incremental changes. By the end of January, you want your body to be really clean and clear, but don't try and do it all today. Okay. Especially
Right.
if you're starting to use humic and fulvic for the first time. So the fulvic, which is our electrolyzed product, you can start in immediately. It's going to start the intercellular replenishment of minerals as well as the intercellular detoxification. So that alcohol, those toxins that have been stored in your liver or in other places in your body, they are now going to be able to come out of your tissues. Because remember, your cells are your tissues. So you want to get those toxins out of the tissues and into your bloodstream where they can then be removed and eliminated. So you start with the fulvic. And if I was going to do a, beginning of this kind of detoxification process, it's going to take a month. I would start by taking a full ounce of electrolyze every day.
Great.
For maybe 3 or 4 days. And then I would start adding in some humic. Now, for the listeners, if you're a person who's very sensitive, you have autoimmune, you've had Lyme's, you've had mold exposure, you've had long COVID, and your system is very sensitive, you're going to start very small. You're going to start with 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of microboost in a glass of water, which you're going to drink over 15 minutes. Again, we're treating our body with such grace and love and gentleness that we're giving it the tools, but we're not trying to hit it with a hammer. We're saying, here, try this, see if this works. And then the body, and the beautiful thing about humic and fulvic is because your cells in your body evolved next to this substance, your body knows exactly what to do with it.
Right.
And that humic will hang out in your bloodstream. It starts in your gut, requires no digestion. Our microboost, it will immediately easily absorb into your bloodstream through the lining of your gut. And then it's going to just start grabbing toxins, bio-waste, heavy metals, alcohol, the toxins from the alcohol, et cetera. Things like glyphosate and nanoplastics. And so it grabs all those things and then it's going to carry those out of your body through all of the elimination channels. So let's say you are fairly toxic and your liver is clogged or your kidneys are not working well for clearing stuff. But the beautiful thing about the humic is it uses every elimination channel: your tears, your snot, your sweat, your saliva, your earwax, rubbing your hands together. So don't be surprised when you start using it if your eyes are itchy or you start feeling.
It's detoxing, like candida and things like that.
Exactly. Because it's detoxing. Yeah. So it will use every elimination channel, which is really useful, especially when you're starting to do detox and some of the pathways are not open.
Wow. Okay. So let me just rephrase that. Again, I find minerals. I find minerals as fascinating as you do because it's like an activator of an internal process that our body is already equipped to do, and that's what I'm hearing here. So when I go dry January, I decide I'm going to do I'm going to call it like a mineral detox. And
Great.
I take the electrolyze I start with an ounce, or if I'm really sensitive, I'll do a couple of teaspoons for 3 days. And I just
so
wait.
The fulvic you can take. No one's ever sensitive to fulvic.
Oh, that's
never
the
had
electrolyze.
anybody.
That's the electrolyze.
Electrolyze is the clear, close to clear. It's kind of a golden color.
Yeah.
That one you can just take the full ounce. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine.
Okay. So, and I want to say for the people listening, we will have a protocol along with the recipes we're about to give. So you can do the electrolytes in the morning when you wake up, you do an ounce, everybody's good there. But at night, you're going to do the micro boost, which is the humic, and you are going to do either an ounce if you feel good, or you're going to do a teaspoon if you're concerned about too strong of a detox.
Well, what I'm going to say is everyone should titrate up at some level. So
Ah.
if you're very sensitive, you're going to start with a quarter or half an teaspoon in glass of water. If you've been using the minerals for a while, or you've used humic and shilajit or something, and you know you're not, or you're just not a sensitive person, you would start with a half an ounce. Okay. And then I would say over a full 10 days, you're going to titrate up to a full ounce in the night before you go to bed, in a glass of water, in a, like this, in a big 16-ounce glass of water. Okay. Maybe if it's a night you don't want to drink 16 ounces, you could put it in an 8-ounce glass.
Does it need to be in water? Because I'll tell you what I do. I put it in the cap and I just drink it straight from the cap.
And because you've been using it for a long time and you probably aren't, a sensitivo, if I do that, after 3 days, I'll get pimples. And if I keep going, I'll get hives behind my knees. So, and that's only happened since I had COVID. Never happened before, but now it does.
So it's pushing out that virus. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Then is there a point at which you don't want to do too much, because we're trying to create an ecosystem. We're not like, it's not a necessarily more is better. Is there a point of too much?
That's true. That's true. I mean, an ounce of our micro boost is plenty per day. I mean, that is a lot. I would give that. So this is just the protocol we're making for, to clear out your system in a month.
Right.
For a regular, just standard amount for a normal adult who's not a performance athlete, half an ounce is plenty. Okay. So, but we're talking about doing a clearing out of your system. So we're going to give it more. Again, we're going to titrate up to get to that full ounce. And at any point during that titrating, if you feel any of the symptoms of detox, which we can provide an article that really demystifies and helps people understand what to look for. We can provide a link to that, because there's a lot of symptoms. It could be achy joints. It could be aching kidneys. It could be a gut, just discomfort in your gut. It could be headaches. It could be a whole raft of different things. Like I get pimples or hives. Okay. Yeah. So a lot of different things depending on who you are. Yeah.
And I just want to go back in a mechanistic model. Pimples or hives would be something to go after. But in an ecosystem model, pimples and hives are a shedding of the old as the new is rebuilding. I just want to point that out, because so many times I watched people move away from fasting because of the bad symptoms. And largely this is why one of the reasons I love Beam is because it has helped mitigate that. But I would love that article. We'll leave a link so that people don't feel like it's the minerals that did that. It's the minerals pushing out the bad in your body.
Yes. And what I always say is this: when you put this humic in your body and you have a response, it's your body like going, yay, fantastic. I can finally get rid of all this crap. Pardon my language. I can finally get rid of this stuff. And all you want to do is slow it down, because you don't want to have a headache. You don't want to have hives. You don't want to have pimples. I don't want those things. So you just slow it down. But what will happen over time is, if you're very gentle and you slowly teach your body, you can use more, you can use more. And, you can end up taking quite a bit. If you're, I mean, I know I have some performance athletes who take 2 full ounces of microboost every day.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that would also make sense, because they're sweating a lot, and that would make sense. So I do want to go into, because we're going to have over 100,000 people in January doing a 3-day water fast. So I want to talk about a protocol for that. Before we do that, talk to me a little bit about the mocktails. I can say that when I've done a dry January, that I miss that nighttime drink. Is there some way we can create something beautiful that would feel like a glass of wine, but not be the alcohol?
It's interesting because in the last year, I've completely stopped having any alcohol. I just realized my body didn't want it. But the
Mm,
ritual, and the thing of
the
being
ritual.
with people, and there's something also special when you have a glass of wine is beautiful, and having a drink that's beautiful that you can share with people. We had actually a big Beam Minerals gathering last summer in
Mm,
Austin, and we had gotten a whole bunch of wine for that event. And we also had these beautiful mocktails. And,
mm.
we had 90 people and only 3 bottles of wine were opened because
Wow.
people love the mocktails so much. So
Tell
it's
us.
real. Yeah, it's really true that you can create something beautiful and really pleasing and fulfilling. I have a couple of mocktails we really love. One, and I'm a huge fan of cucumber, so both of them have
Ooh, me
cucumber in
too.
them.
Oh, me
Okay.
too.
So
Yes.
one is a cucumber watermelon mocktail. And I
Okay.
also like a fizzy mocktail. So you could also use plain water. I use Topo Chico sparkling water mainly because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
very fizzy, which, if you like less fizz, you could use a different water. I recommend the Topo Chico because it mixes well with the other ingredients. So I take a half an ounce of fresh watermelon juice, and you can take some watermelon, just put it in like a sieve and just grind it kind of with a spoon, and you'll get juice out of the bottom. And it's okay if it has some of the fiber in there. It actually will add to the drink. Then you
That's
take a half an
beautiful.
ounce of lime juice. Now you can use any sweetener. I recommend honey. And in fact, I make kind of a simple syrup out of honey. So I take honey
Mm,
and I add water to it so that it will dissolve easily into a cold drink because it's
mm.
already mixed with water, and it's not as sweet. But I use about 3/4 of an ounce of the honey water. Then I
Great.
use this thing, we'll put a link in the recipe. These amazing non-alcoholic spirits. The company's called Seedlip. Have you ever heard of Seedlip?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Well, they're amazing. So in this one, we use this one called Garden 108, and it's got a mix of different flavors. It's not citrusy, and then we put a half an ounce of the electrolytes in there, and then you just fill up the glass with the Topo Chico. So you put all those ingredients, and then
Sounds
you put
really
the
good.
it's so good.
Ah,
And then you can garnish it with some cucumber or lime or whatever's pretty, a flower in the top. So that's one
amazing.
of them. The other one that I love is a cucumber lemon mint. So it's kind of like what do they call that from the South? I can't think of the name right now. But what you do there is you take half an ounce of cucumber juice. So the same thing, you're going to take a cucumber and you're going to mash it into a sieve, and there's going to be juice that's going to come out. You only need half an ounce, so it's not a lot of liquid. And then a half an ounce of lemon juice. And then you're going to take 2 sprigs of mint and you're going to muddle them. So what you're going to do is you need to like break up the mint so that the mint flavor gets into your drink. You can just do it with your
Mm,
hand by, crushing it a little bit, or you can put it in with some of the juice and kind of hit it with the end of a spoon just so it starts to get mixed into the liquid. And then you're going to take again the 3/4 ounce of the honey water. And then you're going to use 1.5 ounce of a different seedlip um, spirit called Grove, and it's
mm.
more of their citrus blend. It's just lovely. And then again, a half an ounce of the electrolytes. So you're also doing some mineralization, and then fill the glass with the Topo Chico. So
Oh my
I'm
God, it
telling you,
sounds so good. It
I
sounds
know
so
we're gonna
good.
have to have one together sometime.
I know. So, okay, so the seed lip, can you get that at I think I can get that at my natural grocery store, or is that something you order on?
Probably not. I have links in here to just you get it
Perfect.
on Amazon. There are you actually, some like liquor stores now carry seed lips. So if you have a
Wow,
more fancier liquor store, because they use it a lot for mixing cocktails nowadays. It's a
amazing.
well-known thing. So yeah, seed lip, really amazing, amazing products, and cool company too.
Now,
So
I noticed you didn't use the micro boost in those. You've used the
yeah,
electrolytes.
Yeah, well, again, since they're mocktails, you don't really need that detoxification. And
Right.
I think about getting the nutrients from the drink, the all the good stuff that's in the drink into your body. So you could use microboost and it tastes like water. You could. I just think of these drinks as being a lighter color. And
Yeah, I
so
was going to say
it's
the
going to
color.
make, part of the drink is how beautiful it is,
It's
and
really
that's why
true.
it's nice to use the fulvic because it's a light color and it
Yeah.
just makes, it doesn't turn the drink into something brown. I mean, I
Yeah.
suppose if you're making a drink that's, with, a different kind of flavor, a spicy drink with maybe some cream in it, a
Yeah.
mocktail. I've never heard of a creamy mocktail. That could be an idea.
I feel
So,
like you need to use the microboost with like a Halloween drink where it would be
yeah, there
dark
we
and
go.
black. So I'll bring you back and we'll come up with that next
That's a
Halloween.
great
Yeah.
idea. I love that. I
It could
love
be like a
that.
spooky drink. But so this is what I'm hoping people who are listening will do is we're now putting ourselves in this state where we're not bringing the alcohol poison in, and we're back filling in with nutrients that are going to bring our ecosystem back into homeostasis. But one of the things that I have been really trying to talk to people about recently is like the environment in which you eat, the environment you put yourself in, the people you hang around. All of that actually matters for the
Mhm.
ecosystem that we're talking about that we call our bodies. And when you go into these dry Januaries, you see a lot of people like grit it, or they feel like they have to remove themselves from social events, although January, everybody pretty much removes themselves. But you just created oxytocin in those recipes. And
Exactly.
oxytocin balances all the other hormones out. And you created dopamine because it's
Mhm.
new and it's novel. And all of a sudden you're excited about your dry January. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna encourage people to make the drink, take a picture of it, and then put it on socials and tag both Beam and me, because I think there's more than just, oh, that was a good replacement. I want people to see that it actually is fulfilling the ecosystem in a way that just going dry can't do.
And this is the great thing is, I always say, or I say, the age of suffering is over. We don't have
Yes.
to
Ooh,
suffer anymore. We just need to learn to love our bodies and ourselves and treat
so
ourselves the
true.
way we would like to be treated.
So true. It's so
Yeah.
true. So, okay, so let's talk about a 3-day water fast because
Yeah.
we're going to have a lot of fasters.
Mhm. Mhm.
And actually we do in our Reset Academy and just our world in general in January, we do a lot of fasting. So I'm wondering, could we come up with a 3-day water fast protocol with your minerals right here and right now? And then I'm
Mhm.
wondering if we can even come up with a fasting drink, like maybe muddling. Yeah, I mean, I'm putting you on the spot here, but I'm thinking we would muddle
Mhm.
some ginger and
Mhm.
maybe squeeze some lemon and then maybe some sprigs of mint and some slices of
Exactly.
cucumber. And
Exactly.
you're using the electrolyze during in your fasted state. That wouldn't pull you out of a fast.
No. And that's the beautiful thing about both microboost and electrolyze is that they don't pull you out of your fast. So I've had many people who regularly do water fasts, like every 4 months or 3 months or something. They do a 3 and sometimes a 5 day water fast, which and I'm sure you work with people around water fasts, and it's a serious business. It's not just something
Yes.
you do, you know. So it's
Yeah.
important, and I cannot think of any better support for a system that is doing a water fast than fulvic and humic minerals. Absolutely
Agreed.
nothing better because, and particularly the liquids. The beautiful thing about these liquids, again, being that they require no digestion, they will not break a fast, and they're just supporting all that autophagy process that's happening in your body, all of that detoxification, all of that, all of those repairing processes are supported both in your brain and in your liver and your kidneys and all your other organs. So, when you go into, and you can of course speak into the science behind the water fast and what happens in the body, but all of those biosynthesis processes require energy. And if you're drinking water and you're drinking filtered water that has no minerals, you're not giving your body that fundamental cellular fuel that is necessary. So,
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So is there, like, my sense, we used to do this in my clinic all the time because it made a 3-day water fast more fun, is and two patients of mine actually came up with this. So I have to give them credit for it, but they were in the middle of a 3-day water fast and they would text each other at certain times during the day. And they would say, I'm having my snack right now. And I put snack in air quotes. And they had different drinks like mineral water drinks and things like that. I'm wondering if going into a 3-day water fast, if you could do the electrolyze, like maybe a couple of ounces a day, and like maybe there's an increase in it, and we put it in this drink we're talking about.
So I'm going to tell you, if you're doing a 3-day water fast, there is no reason that you couldn't have 3 ounces of electrolyze every day.
Yes.
Okay. So the beautiful thing about the fulvic, so remember that it has the natural ratios of minerals in your body. So it's providing all of the minerals more in the proper ratios. So you're not creating imbalance by taking more. If you just took more pills of, potassium or magnesium or something, that would be exacerbating the imbalance. In this case, you're actually supporting the balance, the overall balance. And the body easily eliminates what it doesn't need. It doesn't create that kind of concentration. I would say toxic, but that's a strong word. It doesn't create that concentration load that a single mineral or electrolyte would cause.
Okay. And then, so I'm again, we're creating the protocol right here and now. So I'm going to say 3 different times, like you would maybe do it first thing in the morning, you would do it at noon as your lunch, and then 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then at night before you go to bed, would you do the microboost?
Yes, exactly what I was going to say. Yes. And then at night before you go to bed, do the microboost, because now when you're sleeping, your autonomic system is just going to be doing all of that detoxification work. And again, so during the day, because the fulvic has this ability to cross the cell barrier. So it's carrying nutrients in and biowaste and toxins out, dumping those in the bloodstream. Now you're going to give it that humic, which is then going to continue that, remove it totally from your body.
I know this is a larger discussion, and again, we'll bring you back on to talk about it. But one of the things that we have seen with fasting is that when you become hungry, it's not actually your human cells that are hungry. It's your microbes that are hungry. And the microbes have such a way about controlling our cravings and our hunger. If we follow this protocol of 3 times a day of electrolyze during a water fast, I'm wondering if it will pacify the microbes and feed the microbes so they stop sending hunger signals. What's your sense on that?
Well, again, from the people that I've known who've done the water fast, it's absolutely been the effect. Yeah. So that sense of the crampy hunger feel has been almost totally eradicated with the use of the minerals during the fasting.
Do minerals act like a prebiotic for?
Exactly. So, and the thing we have to realize is, first of all, they do a couple different things. They create a beneficial environment for the positive microbiome elements, because there's so many. And so first of all, they create that beneficial environment, but they're also create a non-beneficial environment for bacteria, for viruses, and then the humic is going to be constantly cleaning up and chemically bonding with those both toxic substances, whether it's the heavy metals or the, bio-waste or the glyphosate or the nanoplastics or those things that create the oxidative stress in your body. So it's so important. But they're just think about, it's like giving your body a leg up because you're asking a lot of it when you're going from,
Great.
straight from eating into a 3-day water fast, you really want to give it all of the tools, the kind of the extra tools that it needs to support all those beneficial processes.
Yeah, I always feel like when you go into a longer fast, and to me, a longer fast is anything over 24 hours, the message you're giving your body is a message of, I trust you. I honor the wisdom in you. I know that you know how to repair better than I know, better than any doctor I've ever gone, any doctor's office I've stepped into. So it's really this beautiful honoring of our ecosystem. And in that, what I think you're doing by adding these minerals in is you're saying, and I know you're going to be doing all this healing for the next 3 days. So I'm going to give you the nutrients that you need to do the job that you do so well. I am going to give you the tools so that you can do your job at its best. That's how I would see what you just said.
I love that. It's so beautiful. I'm going to join the water fast.
Yeah, right. You should. And it's
I'm going to.
It's really fun to do in community because you are energetically leaning into people around the world. We literally had 100,000 people last January, and I led a call every night. It was beautiful. It was really a way to see how small the world can be and how we don't need to constantly rely on outside sources to heal us. We have the power to heal ourselves, which is amazing.
I can't wait to do that, Mindy. That's amazing. I'm definitely going to join.
Beautiful. And what we're going to do is let's write up this recipe for a fasted drink with, ginger and lemon and mint and anything else you would think that would go in there so that people will have that for the fast as well.
One of the things that you can use in those fasted drinks is essential oils. That's a great way to get a little bit of flavor without any caloric input. And it just creates like this feeling of food, even though, I'll throw in some ideas that use essential oils as well.
Great. And then I always tell, perfect. Then I always tell people, put it in a wine glass, put it in a cocktail drink, like make it because now your brain is like, oh my God, it's noon and I get that really cool drink. As opposed to when you don't do that, your brain is like, oh God, I got 3 more days of this. Like, it's just so hard to wrap itself around. So
Cool.
this is amazing. Every time I talk to you, I feel like I just want more. And I really, thank you. I agree. And I'm such a fan of Beam, and I proselytize it everywhere I go because it is so in alignment with the way I look at the body. And so just thank you for, I don't know how you discovered that product. I don't know if you were digging a hole in the ground and you found that there were some minerals down there, but hallelujah for you all and what you're doing. So thank you for all that. How do people find you? I assume we're going to probably have some discount codes. Like how do people dip into this?
Yeah, you can just go to beamminerals.com. We'll put a link in there with because we have a discount code that people can use, which, is just a beautiful thing because everybody wants to try something. It's a great opportunity. Just beamminerals.com. But again, we'll put the discount code link in, so it'll just automatically add a 20%. So that'll be good.
Amazing. Thank you.
We also have if people want to just learn more about minerals, they can go to our YouTube channel, again, Beam Minerals. And we have a lot of good educational content about different things for different people. If you're, for hormonal things or for adrenal things or for thyroid things. So
amazing. Okay. Well, Caroline, I can't wait to see you someday soon when we both, I'm personally not hopping on planes very much these days. I'm taking a little bit of a break, but hopefully we will connect soon and keep up all the great work.
Thank you. That would be lovely to see you. All right. Take care. Okay. Thank you.
My pleasure.